It's got to go lower. There we go. Look at you now. That's a good look right there.
Yeah, look at that dovetail and all.
You got a dovetail, dude. What happened?
I don't know.
Do you want a hat?
Oh, it's okay. It'll be tamed. It'll be tamed. There we go.
Yeah. She met Jared.
Jared,
What happened?
Yeah. No. Got to keep my wife happy. She doesn't even watch the podcast very much.
Let's be honest. She has no idea that your hair is.
No, she doesn't.
We brought both of our wives on for an episode.
Oh, yeah.
And so we asked the most obvious question. What was your favorite episode so far? And they both immediately looked at each other and waited for the other one to answer. And then we're like, well, do you like the opening? Yeah. Do you like the outro? Yeah.
How do we end every episode?
How do we end every? It's Jared's question. How do we end every episode? And they just start giggling.
Sarah's
and
just like, yeah, go ahead and do that. End it.
Yeah.
End it however you end it.
Do that one. So we're like, basically, you've never seen an episode. And they're like, no, we've watched some. In all fairness, though, my wife now watches it next to me in bed at night. So yeah, so she's I think she's at like episode 20 or something. So
my wife will watch when we have guests on. She just doesn't like me and you enough for just the episodes with just you and me.
Oh, see, my wife doesn't. My wife just watches just me. That's how much she loves me. Yeah, she tunes out everything else.
Well,
But
how
she's
many,
met
how many
Michelle.
women have you had?
3. You're the 3rd. So we've had our 2 wives, and now we've had you.
Whoa,
So you're
wait a
technically.
second. We had Tatiana.
Oh, that's right. Tatiana
Yeah,
Goodhart was here.
we
That's
did.
right. I'm sorry, Tatiana.
And then tomorrow we have Barbara Kirkmeyer coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on Thursday we have Danielle Lamon coming on. So
We have
We're-
nothing but
we're
gals on the
building.
show.
All right.
All right. So, we had to do, I don't know. Well, we had our gals, our ladies were on right away.
pretty like within the first probably 15 episodes.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we didn't like linger them out there and make them do a bunch of the guys first. Like, the gals came on pretty, they were like one of our first
wives
guests.
our wives were our first guests before.
Yeah.
Except for Zion. Zion was
And then,
our furry 4-legged friend was up
as
here.
my wife says, you brought us on first and then you started bringing famous people on after. And I'm like, no, you set the bar.
You were the most
Like,
famous.
you were the most famous. Like, I married way up for a reason. I love you.
You ready?
Yeah, I was born ready. Let's go.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Daily Carry Podcast, episode 71 this morning. And we've got a guest on, and we're excited for her to be able to share her story. Michelle Chandler. I said your name right?
Yes.
And your last name right. It's not
Yes.
anything fancy like Chandler.
Chandler.
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing fancy.
We're very excited for this conversation, and we're going to have a little bit of a different daily scroll today because what we're going to scroll through right now is a post from Michelle. This story is quite fascinating, and we're just going to start it right up here, and we're going to get straight into this video that she has posted here on her Instagram. If anyone wants to go and watch it themselves, MI Chandler 5 on Instagram. All right, here it is.
MI Chandler 5.
Put it. Why do you want me to put it? Just stop, man. Just stop. Relax.
Okay, you're not going anywhere. If you relax, it's gonna be a lot easier for you. Okay, listen. We're gonna keep holding on to you. Okay, but if you keep resisting, it's gonna get tighter.
In training.
It's gonna get harder. Okay.
I'll rip your fucking neck.
I love how
There's
you're
a lot of
explaining it to
people
him.
that are going to stop you. So just relax. I feel you tense. Just relax.
How many people were there?
This is why
While we're
men
watching
don't
this.
belong in women's fitting rooms.
Well, there were the 2 employees that were helping me.
Yeah.
Initially, I was by myself holding the guy down. There was a gal there that was with me that day.
Okay.
She's filming.
Okay.
Fitting room attendant, and there were quite a few customers just just
Okay,
forward
record
from my
everything else.
head
Okay, where's
is
the phone
the
that you
entrance to the
recorded with?
fitting room.
They got
So
it?
people were standing
All right,
there
you
just
understand what's
kind
going on right now, right?
of in shock.
You understand we got the police coming.
And when I said,
All you
this
can
is
do
why
at
men
this
don't
point is
belong
just
in women's
cooperate.
fitting
Got
rooms,
to
I
act
was
stupid, it'll be
looking
done, right?
directly at a man who was a customer, looking him directly in the eye because he just pulled out his phone and just started filming.
Of course he did. Instead of helping.
Yeah. I mean, I was sweating and
So here's another video. This is one you just put out yesterday.
All right, you understand what's going on right now, right? You understand we got the police coming. Okay.
So this is after he had calmed down.
Are his pants down?
yes, for a reason. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I am very curious to know that reason.
Well, why else would someone be in a fitting room filming females? And he one of his charges was adult invasion of privacy for sexual gratification.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's back this thing up to the beginning because we just watched the video that your friend is assume pulls her phone out after she realizes what's going on. I don't want to set the stage. It's your stage. It's your story. You and I've talked. We've talked off air. We met at a rally for Victor Marks. Got chatting, and I said, "You got to come on the show after you showed me your video and share this story." I'm going to let you run with it in a second, but the reason I personally wanted you on the show is because these are the guys that I hunt. And this is what I did in my career for a long time. And I went after a lot of guys that did this type of thing to kids and to women. And I've shared stories on the podcast before, but you're the first guest that we've had on who's a female who not only had this happen to her, but you were also the defender and then the subduer to take the man down, which, so I say, like, double props to you all the way around for having situational awareness and for going out and addressing this head on. Because people need to know this kind of stuff happens, and they need to know you stepped into the fight. So cheers to run with.
All right. Well, and it's quite a story, so you can stop me whenever you want if you want to.
We'll break it up into segments. Just
Okay.
just to start with the day of kind of how you ended up
Well,
in the situation.
it was the day before Mother's Day, and it was 2024. And my go-to store is usually Nordstrom or Nordstrom Rack. So I'm a pretty loyal customer, familiar with all of their store layouts in the Denver area. And it was the day before Mother's Day, and I thought I'm going to go find something, to wear tomorrow to see my kids and hang out. And went into the one in Lakewood, Colorado, and grabbed a bunch of clothes. I'm someone that likes to just take everything in, make one trip into the fitting room.
You are
and
never allowed to meet my
out.
wife.
I don't like in and out.
You and her would get along swimmingly. Oh my
but
gosh.
I do take probably 30 or 40 items
Yeah,
in.
so does she. Bless your heart. I love it.
Yeah. So I went, this setup of this store has one big opening, their entrance to their fitting rooms. Women are left, men go right. And when I walked up that day, the fitting room attendant said, "Oh, both sides are open. Pick any room with an open door." And that's immediate. I was just like, "That's odd. Here we go," because so many different things were going on, in our country at the time with fitting rooms and bathrooms. And I just thought, And I thought, naturally, I'm going left. I've always gone left. And the gal that was with me, I said, "Go all the way to the end. The mirror is at the end, and just take the room at the very end." So she took that very first room. I was in the second room. I did notice a couple was there, like a man outside his wife or girlfriend's room. I didn't think anything of it because, I think men, hey, yeah, that dress is great, whatever. And he was just standing right outside her door. But they were getting ready to leave. So it was just the two of us, and we're trying on clothes, and I had several different outfits. I had some outfits that had like built-in support, so I had my top off completely at times. But I was changing, and all of a sudden, this is funny, but I just noticed a foul stench of smelly feet. And I almost wanted to say, "Dude, Asia, is that your feet?" But then I thought maybe someone else is in here and I don't want to be rude. So I went to take off this pair of pants. And as soon as I bent all the way over, I look to my left and I see the bottom half of an iPhone with the camera lenses pointing up at me, and men's shoes and men's filthy socks. And I just immediately thought, is this really happening? And I quietly just stood up. I pulled my pants up and I stood there and I just quietly opened the door and I walked out. I don't think he really knew what was going on because he just stood there with his phone filming. You know, he would have had to been laying on his back looking at his screen to know that I stepped out. And he was probably busy doing other stuff. So I quietly went to the entrance and I told the fitting room attendant, I said, you need to go call security or call police. There's a man filming me in the fitting room. And she was kind of shocked. And I said, go call police. And she's like, I will. And so I walked back and I thought, I need to make sure what I'm seeing is correct. So I squatted down and sure enough, it's a guy. I could see through the crack.
And are you outside the fitting room?
I'm outside of
Okay.
his fitting room.
All
I
right.
squat down and I can see it's a guy and he's still squatted down. His pants are at his thighs. And I just stood up and I rattled the door and I'm like, what are you doing? Silence. And the girl I was with, she's like, I'm still trying on clothes. And I rattled the door again and I said, you're filming me, you sicko. And he said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, ma'am. And just started apologizing. And I said, you're not going anywhere. So I stood there and just held the door. And then she came out. She's like, what's going on? And I said, this guy's filming me. And she was kind of in shock, didn't know what to do. And he got himself together, his shoes, and he started crawling underneath the fitting room next to him to try and get away. I stood at the door holding the handle, just letting him think that, you know, I'm over here, go ahead and try. And so he crawled completely over into the next fitting room. And as soon as I saw that he was over there and starting to get to his feet, I just stepped over and I pushed him down and put my knee in his back and just held him down on the ground on his stomach. The gal I was with went and she got her clothes on and grabbed her phone. And so I'm there on the ground and I look up and two male employees come running back, and that's the two guys in the video. And they're bigger guys. They come back and immediately are like, what's going on? And I said, this guy was filming me while I was in the fitting room. And how do you know this? I'm just like, I don't know. I just immediately felt like I'm on the defense having to explain myself. But I said, I saw his phone, and then he admitted to it. He was apologizing. And they said, well, we got it from here. And I said, he's going to try and run. And they said, we've got it. And I said, all right. So I slowly got up. And sure enough, as soon as he gets to his feet, he's trying to bolt out for the door. And the guys are grabbing his sweatshirt and trying to hang on to him. And there's just a fight. And, you know, the fitting room aisle is pretty narrow. So they're like hitting the fitting room doors and walls and getting closer and closer to the entrance. And I hear an employee say, there's nothing you guys can do. You can't do anything. And that's when I was like, oh, heck no. And I squeezed around all three of them. I was getting elbowed and, you know, I squeezed around and I just looked up at the perpetrator and I grabbed his head, put him in a headlock, hung on. That's all I thought to do in the moment. So I had him, and, you know, the video shows, you know, I just threw my body against the wall. So I had him kind of pinned. Well, he was putting up a fight. And so the guys were like, you know, just stop, man. You know, you're not going anywhere. There's a lot of people that are going to stop you, which I find really funny after the fact. Yeah, he was putting up a fight, and one guy was pulling his sweatshirt around the corner, and the other guy was trying to contain his legs. And, you know, I just kept hanging on, and I was able to reach my hands around, feeling around his pockets. I got his wallet and I got his cell phone from him. At that point,
And you did this while you had him in a headlock.
I had him in a headlock, and
and
I
had
mean,
the awareness to reach back and find this stuff.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
fascinating.
I was just like, I've got to get this phone. I mean, he's fighting, and yeah, I was shaking, I was sweating. You know, it's like being in a wall squat, a wall sit.
Yeah.
You know, my legs and the adrenaline, and I could tell I was red and sweating, and having customers just walk by and just like, and, you know, I look right up at one of the men that was a customer there. And that's when I said, this is why men don't belong in women's fitting rooms. And he's just pulling out his phone and filming me. And I'm thinking, for goodness sake, like, come help.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought I need to get his phone. And so I'm feeling around. I was able to get his phone, and he started putting up a fight because he knew what I was trying to do. And I got his phone and his wallet, and then he just kind of gave up. And he's like, "Can I just sit down? I'm not going to go anywhere. This is uncomfortable." I don't know. You know, through the whole thing, one of the female employees, she walked by and she's like, "I cannot believe how calm you are. I have so much respect for you. I just cannot believe how calm you are." I had his phone, I had his wallet, I'm hanging on. All that was going through my head was like George Floyd, or, you know, don't kill this kid. And so I would loosen up my hold, but stay flexed, you know, give him room, but I was like ready to squeeze. And, he would try and get away. But once I had his phone and his wallet, he's just like, "Can I just sit down? I'm not going to go anywhere. This is really uncomfortable." And the guys said, "Yeah, let's just let him sit down. We'll hold him." I go, "You guys better not let him get away." And so I hung on to him, turned to another wall, and let him slide down the wall. And I said, "You better not try and go anywhere. I have your phone and I have your wallet." And so the employees, one sat on his feet and another guy held his arm behind his back, and they sat on the floor. So I took that opportunity because I had pants, Nordstrom pants, unzipped, no shoes. I took that opportunity to go back to my fitting room and get myself dressed in my clothes. It's funny because after the video went viral, there were a lot of men just like, "This is fake. She's got 2 different outfits on. There's no way she could hold a guy," you know. And I was just like, "You guys don't know the whole story, but whatever."
So this photo, I love this photo, by the way. This was at what point during this exchange?
This was the end. This is.
So he tried to get away again after he was sitting on the wall.
Well, no. So he's sitting on the wall, and I go change. I come back, and I'm standing between him and the entrance of the fitting room, just so if he decides to try and get up, you know, I'm going to tackle him. And management comes back. And they look at the guy and their employees and said, "You guys need to let him go." And I turned immediately and I looked at her and I said, "You've got to be kidding me. You let people run out of here for shoplifting and just get away and walk out the door. Like, where does this end? Where does this end?" I said, "I could be your wife, your mother, your daughter, your sister. Like, where does this end?" And she just looked me square in the eye and she says, "If you want to continue holding him until the police arrive, that's up to you. But our employees need to let him go. Or no, our employees need to remove themselves from the situation immediately." I was like, I can't believe this.
Wow.
And one of the employees looked up at me and said, "Are you going to be okay?"
Unreal.
And I looked at the perpetrator and I just said, "Get on your stomach." And so he got on his stomach and I sat on his back.
Where did this idea come from to sit on his back in this position?
I mean, I don't know. You know, I've never had any training. I just thought I'm just going to sit on his back. I put his arms, maybe watching too many movies, but I put his arms behind his back and pinned his elbows with my knees. At this point, I was holding his head. I had just smacked the lid of his hat. And I'm like, I could beat the crap out of you right now. I was so mad. I think it was the tipping point of management saying, let him go and you're on your own.
Yeah. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And so I smacked the hood of the lid of his hat. And I'm just like, I could beat the crap out of you right now. You messed with the wrong woman. But in that moment I paused because at the time, this happened at a time in my life that I was really going through a lot of other things. Just personally, my marriage, therapy. So I was already dealing with some dysfunctional belief systems that I had built up throughout my lifetime. Being, violated as a young girl. So when I was sitting there on his back in that moment, like all of that rage was coming up.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do this to me. You can't get away with this. You need to be held accountable. And I did, though. I paused and I prayed. And it was like God saying, you're in control now, Michelle. What are you going to do? So.
Wow.
Shortly after, the Belmar security showed up and said, I'm going to have her release you. You're just going to sit down. You try and run. That'll be a bad idea. I'm bigger than you, And then that second video that you guys saw, that's where he came in.
And then he was sitting on the wall.
Yeah, and then he's sitting back on the wall again. And so...
how long did it take before law enforcement got on scene, just out of curiosity?
It was like 35 minutes, maybe 40.
Okay.
And, that's another thing in the moment I wasn't thinking about. But, I look back and I'm just like, Lakewood PD is right across the street from this Nordstrom. I don't know if it's law enforcement or it raises the question if Nordstrom made the call when they should have.
That's kind of where I was going with that.
Highly doubtful. It sounds like.
Well, if she walked in and said, everybody leave the room, I highly doubt they're dialing.
Right.
Well, maybe they did. I shouldn't say that, but
it's questionable. I've learned a lot that I won't talk about right now.
Sure.
From employees that were part of the situation.
Yeah.
And from...
Well, make sure you protect your case how you need to protect it. The reason we wanted you on was to share your story for a multitude of reasons. One, you've been victimized twice. That's huge. Once as a child, once as an adult. I went through that for 2 years as a child. I carried that with me for decades before I ever talked about it. I want a victim to come on and tell their story. I want people to sit down and understand what you go through. And you just said it. You said all of this stuff from my past came roaring up, and I'm sitting on this guy's back, and I just say a prayer. I can tell you I've been there. I've been there when I had to arrest somebody that had, I know, just broken the jaw of a woman and sodomized his kid. And it was, I had to in the moment go, I operate under the color of authority. I can't overstep the law, and I can't hurt this guy. But I can tell you everything inside me wanted to take him out to a Kansas wheat field for about 3 days. And so you fight those things, right? And that's why I wanted you to, in part, share some of this stuff, because this is what people need to hear. They need to understand there's a real world. This stuff happens, and then you have a feckless leader at Nordstrom, and you have 2 security guys who are trying to do the right thing at first, but then fall back to policy or an order that's given to them by whoever their manager is. And that, yeah, I'm about 19 kinds of irritated over that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're about to get a little more irritated.
Oh, boy.
Because so much more.
Micah, stay in your seat.
I'm gripping my coffee tight.
Came out through the court process. So the police arrived and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. So.
Did they look at the phone?
They took his phone and they took his wallet. And I left. So at the time, I didn't know, did he get arrested? Did he get a citation? I didn't know any of that until later. But the DA, the PD, victim witness or victim protection or
victim's advocate,
victim's advocate reached out to me. And I don't know, for days, weeks, I felt, it's a disgusting feeling. Like, I didn't know how long was he filming me, how much of me is on his phone. Was he live streaming? And now my phone is at the PD, detectives. What are they seeing? Like, it just is, it's gross. So I didn't have answers to that. And I think it was for like a couple months. Then the DA said, because I would call the PD and they're like, well, I think his phone's broken. We're having trouble getting access to it, or I don't know, I think he was uploading it through Snapchat and saving videos. But I finally found out, they said, you caught him immediately. So when he started filming you and you looked down over at his phone, that's all he has of you. So, okay, I'm relieved.
Sure.
Okay, well, the charges, he has 2 charges against him, and they're going to go, through the court process. It was probably a few months later, and continuance after continuance, because he didn't have an attorney. He was trying to get a public defender, whatever. There was always something. And finally, when I thought we were going to make progress, the DA called me the night before and says, I just want to let you know, give you a heads up, he's probably going to ask for a continuance tomorrow because he's probably going to want legal representation. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, the crime lab uncovered more videos on his phone. So he was apparently staged at that Nordstrom Rack for about 2 hours in the fitting rooms, filming other females, gratifying himself without Nordstrom having any idea. And so what they said was, we're going to add 6 more counts of Jane Does to your case. Or maybe it was 8. I think it was 6. So he's going to obviously know he's in bigger trouble and going to want to get an attorney. So that's what happened. It got extended again. But it came out, in court at sentencing. I had heard that he had a knife on him, but I didn't see one, hear about it during the scuffle or anything. So I couldn't, factually say that I knew that for sure, but it did come out in sentencing that he had a knife on him. So this could have been a worse, situation. So they added the Jane Does. Well, it's like New Year's Eve, and I wake up and I'm looking at my phone, and this video is going viral of a woman in California at a Hollister who caught a man filming her 12-year-old daughter in the fitting room. And she clearly has her phone up, and she's like got his face on camera, and she's like, you were filming my daughter. Someone come stop him. You need to stop. Stay here. And I can hear an employee say, sir, we're going to ask you to leave your merchandise and please leave our store. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, do something. And, of course, I'm like the mom, just like, grab him, tackle him, put him in a headlock, something, but she just, I think like most women, you're scared, you don't react. And she just kept filming. He walks out of the store and gets away. Well, then that got my wheels turning. I'm up every night carrying this silent burden for these Jane Does that have no idea they're part of my case. And now I'm going, what if these are minors that he was filming? And I go back and forth with the DA, and I said, can I go to the news? Can we try and identify them? Can they give them the right to be in the courtroom with me? Like, I can't sleep. And what if they're minors? And he said, you would have to go to Lakewood. They'd get inundated with phone calls, and I don't know. It just sounded.
This was from the DA's office?
It made no sense to me, the answers I was getting. Yeah. And said, I said, can I go to the news? Well, that's above my pay grade. Let me go up the chain and see, what we can do. And came back and said, well, I can't tell you, like, you can talk to whoever you want. He was very careful in how he worded things. And I think they did a great job. They were very helpful to me. But in this one situation, you know, I felt like the response they gave me was, you know, and I put this in my statement at sentencing. I was told, we've considered this, letting the public know. And had this happened to you and you not known, would you want to know? Suddenly, every woman would wonder, is it me? There would be a panic among a sizable number of people. Will they get peace or closure? There's two sides to every coin, and we have to weigh that. I wish I had more guidance, you know, as I walked this whole process alone, because I would have probably fought more or went public and said, you know, I think women would have remembered. It was the day before Mother's Day, Nordstrom Rack, and this went viral, you know, people heard about it. I would remember if I were there. I think they were going on the fact that, you know, the faces weren't shown. So I didn't know what I was dealing with, and I just was like, all right, you know, I will do what I can. I will be the face of these women in court. I am going to speak at sentencing. I'm going to say something. So, so I spoke at sentencing last May. They weren't asking for jail time, and the DA said that my statement had an impact on the judge. He did get jail time. He did get 5 years of probation. He's sex offender registry, which is really sad for a young man, and I hope, you know, he does turn his life around, but the chances of that, I don't know. He's already violated probation. So anyway, fast forward to just a few months ago, after I had to go back to his resentencing on my case, I was like, well, I want to know, and I'm hearing things from other employees, and I'm like, well, I'm going to get the police report because I want to see what every witness's statement says.
Can I interrupt just 1 second? Did you have an attorney through all of this? Anybody representing you?
No. I mean, I was just the victim in a sex assault case and attending hearings and hoping justice would be served.
Okay, thanks.
So, yeah, I was alone. I went to probably 12 to 15 different hearings, pretrial, whatever, by myself. It was hard. But I know that, you know, that was building strength and resilience and what I needed to do. I think it was a season in life that God had me alone. And I look back and I wouldn't change a thing for who I am today. But, so resentencing was November, just a few months ago. And I thought, I'm going to get the police report and I want to see everyone's statements because I'm hearing some things from employees and, you know,
Employees of Nordstrom.
policies, procedures, how they handle, you know, shoplifters, and we want the problem to go away.
Of course.
They were surprised, you know, one thing I heard, they were surprised that I would hang on to the guy. They didn't think I would hold on to the guy till the police arrived. So, surprise.
I'm glad you did.
And they didn't know any of the information through the court process that they had a much bigger problem on their hands. So, anyway, I got the police report and I read through it and I get to the part where the crime lab is describing in detail all of the videos. And I sat in my car and I cried because, I mean, just in detail, just the description of all the women, females. I mean, I don't know 100% if they're minors or not. But reading through that, like they very well could have been identified if given the opportunity. Like, I wish something more could have been done. It would be like on the video, if you were to go into the fitting room and he caught you on video, but your face isn't shown, it would, you know, say grunt style black shirt with this, denim jeans, you know, your Timberland boots.
Enough description that people would know.
Oh, bracelet.
Yeah.
Undresses, tries on different outfits, whatever. You could have gone in there and go, here's my clothes.
Yeah.
Let's look at video surveillance from that afternoon. Yep, that's me. Here's my receipt. I was there.
Not to mention other cameras throughout the store that would track you.
And that's another, so that broke my heart because I'm like, man, these women will never know. And what if one, two, all of them were minors? So it's just really frustrating. It's just giving me a drive to do something, advocate for things. There's, like you've mentioned, the video surveillance. I asked the DA, I'm like, what about video footage? What about, he said, well, we asked the PD, and then when the PD went to Nordstrom, they said, we don't have it, and now it's gone. Whatever that means. That's another thing. I just feel like there's so many things that we can change as far as, for one, men don't belong in women's spaces.
Right.
That needs to go back to the way it's always been. But I don't know. I think big corporations should, by law, have to preserve video surveillance if an act of crime occurs on their premises. I would have never known to I better get a lawyer and say, hey, can you preserve this video data for a period of time just in case I need it? No, I think should be some accountability. And if there's, an act of crime that occurs, save it.
So I'm going to speak to something just for a second, Michelle, that I want you to know from my law enforcement experience. I'm not speaking for all law enforcement. I'm not speaking for the DA's office here. I can tell you, when I would investigate a crime like this, if I would get this, be it on the fugitive side or on the detective side, whether I was kicking a door and SWAT and going in and getting these guys, you turn over every stone, you ask every question. So if I get the phone call, it says, so let's take your incident, I would have gone in. The very first thing that would have happened is I would have gone immediately to the security department at Nordstrom and say, I need you through the entire tracking of the entire store to download this footage. We're going to take this footage. And that's an automatic thing that should be done in the first 60 seconds. So one guy or two cops are dealing with the suspect. Somebody is interviewing you. Somebody is interviewing the other witnesses, and somebody's getting that footage. That gets turned over to the DA's office. That is an instantaneous thing that should have happened. That has nothing to do with you as a victim. That shouldn't have been your requirement, and you shouldn't have to hold on to that. That is something that a ball was dropped throughout this entire process. I can tell you that's why I was asking if you had an attorney, because an attorney obviously would have gone after these things, but you as a victim wouldn't necessarily know that, nor can you go in, believe it or not, can you go in and sequester that? So that's a real problem that we have in the system if you don't have somebody who's doing due diligence, and they should. And I just did a podcast with George Brockler, the DA here, and we'll have him on this podcast soon. He would be telling you the same thing. He would be looking at you right now and saying, I'm so sorry. Here's how this should have gone. So your case didn't just fall through the cracks. And then part of the problem is, I don't know Nordstrom's policy, but most camera systems only hold for 2 to 3 to 4 weeks the amount of footage because you run out of bandwidth. So it auto deletes. If you don't, that's why we get it right away. We don't go back 3 weeks later and go, oh, by the way, we need this. Because most of them aren't going to, if they're not willing to protect you in a dressing room and they're telling their people to get up and walk away, I guarantee you they're not paying for cloud storage on video footage unless they're looking to protect themselves, because they're not looking to protect the victim.
I feel like a lot of things were not happening until I was asking or questioning.
Yeah.
And now that I look back, I'm just like, oh, I don't know.
Well, it's not fair. It shouldn't have been on your shoulders in the first place. There's clearly several balls dropped. From what Mike had just described, the police department should have been the ones who said, as soon as they got there, they should have done a proper investigation, which would have included evidence collection.
Yep.
But then even with you having an attorney, the district attorney is the one who's supposed to be representing you on the case. So for you to be asking him, hey, can we get the surveillance footage? He should have done that way before you ever brought it to his brain. He should have already had that taken care of.
Well, it's part of the decision-making process whether you take it to court or not. So if the DA, the first thing the DA is going to do is when that case gets handed over, or the ADA, so whoever's handling it, that they're going to look at evidentiary value. Can I take this case somewhere? So the very first thing is do I have a cooperative witness, a victim? Like, that's the number one thing. Because if I do not have a victim that's willing to cooperate, I can't charge again. So that's why they said, do you want to press charges? That's the very first question. That very first question goes through the entire process, all the way to the judge. I'm willing to stand my ground and do this. The second thing is the collection therein. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, but like that's a huge thing.
You can speak more intelligently into that than I can anyways. But what I would say is just bringing it back to surface level here is regardless, there needs to be, all this stuff has to happen, not just for you to be having justice served and have peace brought to your situation as the victim, but as a young man, that's even more concerning to me that at 20 years old, right? He was 20 years old at that time. Is that how old he was whenever this happened, or was he maybe younger then?
He might have been 19, turning 20.
So the reason that I bring that up is because if they're doing that at that age already, and it's clearly an unchecked, insatiable desire, and that's going to lead to worse than bad. So people will be like, oh, he didn't hurt any. Yeah, he did. There's actual victims, and that's not where he's going to stop. That's not where people like this stop. That's something that they continue to feed and grow, and then it's not enough, and then it has to become something else, and then it can lead to horror stories, whether it's just sexual predators or whether it's full-blown serial killers. It can lead into a whole lot of nasty things that if it's not addressed early, right now, whenever someone like you catches, then it can just be something that escalates out of control for the rest of this guy's life. Colorado has a huge problem with crime. There's not been very many guests that have sat here knowing much about Colorado and haven't sat here and said Colorado's major problem, one of the major problems, if not the major problem, is crime and how crime is handled. Clearly, from everything that I've just heard, it sounds like the police department, all the way to the DA's office, just simply didn't take your case seriously enough. It doesn't sound like that they came in and really gave it the seriousness that it deserved, because there was not just you as a victim, but multiple victims. Thankfully, eventually, the crime lab uncovered whatever they uncovered off of this young man's phone, but they should have gone into this thinking that, okay, there could be a whole lot more. We need to do all this evidence collection. We need to make sure that we're documenting everything. We need to make sure that there could be potentially multiple victims here. They should have already been thinking these things. And clearly the ball was dropped. And it started with Nordstrom and their employees. It wasn't even to hear that they told their male employees, you need to remove yourself from the situation. That's disappointing, but it's also disappointing that male employees would leave a female with a situation like that and not at least just be there as support, to be an encouraging force to just keep the peace. It almost seems like every citizen should have an obligation to at least be there to help keep the peace at a bare minimum.
I would have left my job that day.
I mean,
At Nordstrom.
seriously.
I would have stayed there with you, number one, and I would have never gone back to work at that place again. Because if that's the policy, then I, as an employee, have no protection either. That puts me into a bad situation. But this is about Michelle Chandler right now, and I want the world, anybody that watches this, because these clips will go viral. We'll make them go viral. People need to know that there's evil, and people need to know that there's people that are sitting on a bench, because you said it earlier, he wasn't even going to get jail time. I'm dealing with a case, and I can't use a name, and I can't use a location, so I'm going to be super vague about this, but I'm dealing with a situation right now that is a criminal situation, and we're dealing with the byproduct of it on somebody who just got $3,500 bond on criminal mischief. Criminal mischief is like when you go out and spray paint a building or do so. And I'm not justifying it's illegal and you shouldn't do it. What was the bond on your guy?
I don't even know.
I bet it's not $3,500.
I don't
I'm
even
interested to go dig into it, because the reason I mention this particular case, this guy got 6 weeks in jail, couldn't get out, and he was on a $3,500 bond because he went out and he keyed a car or did something like that. We're talking about sexual assault, video surveillance, putting you into nightmares, putting you into bad situations, worrying about other victims. The mental anguish that you're going through is not the same thing as somebody going out and tagging something. And I think about the jail time this guy got, and he's a problem child. I'll be honest with you, he is. There's no doubt about it. Your case is 100,000 times worse on every level, and it infuriates me that we have a system right now, and we have a state run by a governor who is feckless and all the things that we've gone off on in this stuff before. We've had Senate select candidates in here and gubernatorial candidates, and everybody's saying the number one problem we have is crime. I say it's mental health, but the bottom line is they cohabitate. And now we have a victim times two sitting in here telling a very not only passionate story and compelling story, but a very interesting story, because the byproduct of this entire thing, it just makes the case that much worse of what he did to you, in my opinion. I'm looking at it through the lens of, if I'm the protector, if I'm your husband, if I'm the attorney, if I'm in any one of those roles, I'm going after this thing so hard and so fast that I'm never going to slow down until justice is served. But yet we have judges sitting up there going, yeah, it's a first-time offense, and all you were doing is sticking a camera underneath there and looking up somebody's skirt. Like, versus what?
Well, let's ask the question. I'm very curious to know, with everything Mike had just said, how long was his jail time? And you said that there was a resentencing. He broke his probation. So can you speak into that a little bit more? How much jail time did he get? You said he got 5 years of probation. You said he already broke his probation, and then there was a resentencing. So let's talk about what this guy actually ended up having to serve and may still be serving. Do you know enough of the details on that?
Yes. So initially he got 5 years probation. He got sex offender registry.
How long was he in jail?
He got a year suspended, but the judge gave him, based on my statement that I read, and the fact that he, for whatever reason in his evaluation and stuff, doesn't feel like he's a sex offender. So the judge made it very clear, this is a sex offense case. This is a sex offense charge. You are a sex offender. And so impose like education, I don't know how long, therapy, intensive therapy. And he got 60 days on the spot, which I think he was pretty shocked. His mom was there. And he got taken into custody. He only served 15 days maybe of that. And then he got let out and did not find a job, did not get set up for his classes. And then I got a text alert saying that he was in custody, and I was like, oh my gosh, what? Violating probation charges. I didn't know why or what. Did he do something again? So I went to that hearing, and it was some sort of criminal mischief, something. So he was in jail at the time because he violated probation. And so the judge gave him another 50 days. I think he may have served 20-ish. But the judge said, I'm going to put you on review hearings every couple months. You need to comply. Pretty much no chance. Like, you need to have clean UAs. You need to do what you're supposed to be doing on probation, or you're going to jail for a year. So that's kind of where it's at right now.
So it sounds like he wasn't even arrested whenever this whole thing happened.
He got a citation at Nordstrom Rack, and they gave him a ride home.
What was the citation for? Do you know?
It was adult invasion of privacy. Oh, I don't have it on me.
That's okay.
There were 2 charges.
But they were both written tickets, essentially.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a sarcastic way.
Yeah.
That's deplorable.
So that's the answer to your question. There clearly wasn't even bond involved. Or
No.
He didn't have to bond out
No,
anything.
that's the point I'm getting at, is we got a guy sitting there for 6 weeks on criminal mischief on a $3,500 bond. By the way, you have to do like $250,000 or whatever it is in damage and to get that kind of bond. This whole thing infuriates me. I mean, I'm impassioned, and I'm so glad you are okay. And I mean, from a physical standpoint, obviously you've gone through some things, and I want you to be able to share and continue on that. But the reason I'm so amped up on this is I've sat on the other side of this so many times watching victims get victimized again. And this could not be a more clearly cut, defined case of Nordstrom drops the ball. So I'm gonna say kudos to the 2 dudes that came in and originally grabbed him and held on for a little while. After that, everything went downhill.
And then they caved to their
Yeah, of course.
employer.
Yeah. So I'm going to say thanks for grabbing him, but then you gave up. The dude filming, the man filming, that ticks me off too, because you're not a man.
Yeah.
You're a coward. You're not
Yeah.
going to step in. I mean, I could get salty on this thing for sure, and I am so proud of you because you didn't panic in the moment, and you stayed composed. And whether you thought it all through or not, you're like, no, not today. This isn't happening. And I am sure somewhere deep down inside, I know for me, I'm proud of you. I hope that you feel good that you did the right thing for you to protect other
appreciate
people.
that. Thanks.
It's just huge, Michelle.
I don't frequent Nordstrom. Do you frequent Nordstrom?
Okay, so there was a joke in the beginning of this that she's not allowed to meet my wife. She's already met my wife. I joke about that because Jana and Sydney, so my daughter and my wife, one of their favorite things to do is, they go shopping together.
Yeah.
Same build, same height, same size, same everything. Well, Dillard's, Nordstrom's, Macy's do dress sales and different sales throughout the year. Michelle knows this. I know this because I'm the husband that gets tagged along. And one time, I'm pretty proud of this. I think Jana once said on our podcast, I used to buy a lot of her clothes because I love my bride. I love finding that special something for her. I want to give her something. So it's not uncommon for Jana and I to go walk around a mall and do a date day, and maybe we'll eat at the outlet mall or do whatever we do. But my point is, all of this is I've spent my share of time watching my wife come out and go, what do you think? And she'll go in and get the next item and the next item and the next item. Jana and I, and I'm not going to share the story right now, but we actually have a situation where Jana and I caught 2 people in Dillard's, similar circumstance, and we took them to the ground here, my wife and I.
Well,
Because
this
we-
would
because
be
we
the
were
time
shopping.
to tell the story.
No, that is the story. We spotted 2 dudes. They were shoplifting. So it was not a sexual assault thing, but it was the fact that we sat there and watched it. And then Dillard's, after I took them to the ground and Jana took them to the ground essentially, and we detained them, Dillard says, yeah, you got to let him go. And I'm like,
I don't understand.
like you
it.
need to step away because I'm a citizen and I'm going to do what I want. And you can sue me for taking them to the ground, but they had like $1,000 worth of polo on. They just did it in layers. They just put all this stuff on. They came in skinny and they walked out looking like the Michelin Man. And we watched the whole thing unfold. And the sheriff's department came over and Dillard's refused to prosecute him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the direction that Colorado's heading right now, though, isn't it?
This was 4 years ago, by the way. Yeah.
So it was 3 or 4 years ago.
23 or 4 years ago.
Oh, 23 or 24
yeah, this was right,
years ago.
This was right after we moved here to Colorado. Jana and I were at Dillard's up in Park Meadows. So, yeah, this is a 24-year-old decision. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't understand the policies, and I don't understand. It just makes no sense to me. And
Well, they're protecting their bottom line.
I was in just a few months ago. I was at Topgolf, and we were in the restaurant waiting for our bay to open up. And I went to the bathroom, women's bathroom, clearly marked women's bathroom, and I was washing my hands, and I look up in the mirror and looked over my shoulder, and I was like, was that a guy that just walked in here? Mama bear. I was like ready to go beat on the door, the stall. And I thought, okay, I need to make sure what I'm seeing is correct. Here comes that line again. And so I turned on my phone, my video, and I thought, I'm going to just go stand outside the door and wait. And so as I'm walking out the door, there's kind of a half wall, and then the sinks are on the other side. So I'm opening the door, and a girl is coming in. In the meantime, he had just walked out and was washing his hands. She comes in, I open the door, and she's like, oh, thanks. And she comes in and then spins around really fast, comes back and says, oh, did I go in the men's? And I looked at her, and she saw the sign, and she goes, oh. She turned and went in and used the bathroom. I went to security, and I said, hey, do you guys allow men in your women's bathrooms? And he said, no. I said, well, there's a guy in there right now, and a girl just walked in there. And he's like, oh, yeah. I go, I have it on video. Are you going to do something? He goes, well, let me look into it, and I need to go talk to my manager or the manager. And so I went back to my table, and he came back, and I said, that's him over there. He's in that bay. And he said, I'll go check it out. And comes back minutes later, and he says, yeah, so I went over there, and apparently he identifies as female, so there's nothing I can do. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And he said, you know, if it makes you feel any better, there's a private family restroom at the end that you can use.
If it makes you feel better.
And I'm like, that's where he should go. He has no business in the women's restroom. And he said, I know, I fully agree with you, but if I say anything, I'll get in trouble. And I was just like, here
And this is Top Golf?
Top Golf in Centennial.
By the way, were you in the first, second, or third deck?
This was the first deck.
Okay.
Because we were waiting in the restaurant.
So we couldn't really throw them off the second or third.
No.
But I'm known to have a really bad slice. So inadvertently.
My daughter's been known to let go of her club.
Yeah.
But so I'm just like, I cannot believe this. And they're getting ready. I'm watching them. They're getting ready to leave. It's like him and 4 other guys and 1 girl. And they're not dressed like women, or, you know, they look like a bunch of guys at Topgolf. And they're getting ready to leave. And I told my daughter, I'm going to go say something. And she said, no, Mom, no. Like, I have not been through what I have gone through to be silent. This is wrong. And so they're walking out the doors, and they went outside. It was a nice day. People are out on the steps, and he's walking down the steps. I fling the door open. I've got my video on, and I was like, hey. And they all turned around and looked up. I go, if you've got a penis, stay out of the women's bathroom and use the men's restroom, you sicko. And they just kind of turned and kept walking. But there were other women and people out there that were like, I agree, you know, and kind of were clapping. But it's just insane, this world that we live in, and these policies that corporations have, and they don't take, you know, stuff like this seriously. I don't know. I would have. I'm not a detective, but I'm like, let's look at the video. Well, let's try and put a word out. If you know, show some shoes on the news. And if this was your shoes and you were there that day, can you come into the PD? Or let's go find his laptop at home. Is there more to this? Is he you know?
Oh, there's definitely
you
should have
don't
been a
just
search
wake
warrant.
up one day. He said this was his first time. You don't wake up one day and go, hey, I'm going to go hang out and video women in the fitting room. Like, I don't know. And I think they need to take, you know, upskirting serious when they're videoing. You know, I was looking into that Giselle Pellico case in France.
I'm not familiar.
Older couple, wife, her husband was drugging her, and then having men come over and do what they want with her. And the only way and for 10 years. And this was recent, like this went to trial. The only way he got in trouble was he was in public upskirting females, and the police actually confiscated his phone. And then they found all these years of footage of his wife and men got prosecuted too, I believe. But it's like, nothing's taken serious. And, you know, I can't believe it's just let him go. Can't do anything.
In Colorado, Michelle, and I don't know the bill off the top of my head, but it was several years ago. I wish I'd asked the sheriff when he was on. There was a bill passed where law enforcement can be charged now if they do something incorrect. I'll just keep it the verbiage simple. I genuinely believe that judges should be held to punitive damages if a case is ruled on and then that person goes out and then violates the same thing and the judge let him go. And let's just start it at $1 million. And I would bet within 3 months of time of implementing that to every judge into the United States, across the country, that you would see all of this end tomorrow, because there's no liability for the judge. There's nothing to hold a judge to account. And the judge is the ultimate decision maker. They can decide what information comes in, what goes out, what the DA is allowed to present, what they're not, what the defense is allowed to present. There's a lot of power that sit in most people, when they elect these guys, they have no idea who they're electing. So they do politics from the bench, and then they re-victimize from the bench. And I've been saying this for 30 years, and I'm definitely screaming it from the rooftops now. It is something that I'm very impassioned over, because people just don't know. They do not realize how much power a judge has, and that puts people like you right back into the position that you were facing when you first walked in, when you're expecting justice in the justice system. That's why she's blindfolded. Scales of justice. There's no more blindfolds.
Probably
That's true.
if I were to look at everything that's been described so far, with the sentencing, with him having some jail time but only having to serve part of it, probably the biggest wake-up call that this young man has had in his life is actually being caught by you,
Yeah.
Michelle. You catching him and holding him accountable and not just letting him go. That has probably been the biggest wake-up call in that young man's life. More than standing in front of a judge, clearly more than his sentencing, which got probation, he already broke that, is not taking that seriously. Well, somebody stood in the gap and said, no, you're going to have to be accountable to what you've just now done. And I think that you would think that a wake-up call like that would get a young man on track. Unfortunately, the follow-through is not serving him, you, or anybody involved. He should have a legitimate sentence. He should be being held accountable. He shouldn't be just getting a slap on the wrist. He keeps on getting let go. He keeps on getting let off the hook. It's only going to lead to more and more. And unfortunately, that is a common theme in Colorado and many other blue states. And there's just a lack of accountability across the board. And it is making it to where blue states have become breeding grounds for problems like this, for people like this. Whenever people call Colorado a sanctuary state, it just makes me sick inside because I know what that means. People say it like it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're a sanctuary state for criminals. We're a sanctuary state for sex offenders. We're basically a safe haven for crime.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. But at the same time, the silver lining, I'd say, in all this, you already were that mom, and you've described Mama Bear coming out a couple of times, and that's amazing because I know that that's something that instinctually God puts in women, and I think that that's what came out and what gave you this strength and this ability to kind of just naturally, instinctually put this guy in a headlock, put him on his belly, and hold him down, hold him accountable until the police got there to be able to help. But you didn't have any formal training before that. That was just Mama Bear instincts. But then Rener Gracie was put onto your story, and he reached out. You guys made a video together. So I just would like for you to be able to tell the audience what that journey looked like, because you weren't trained before, but what I understand now is that you are training, and I just want you to be able to speak to that a little bit.
That's probably been one of the biggest blessings that's come out of this. So I grew up, I have 3 older brothers. They were all state champ wrestlers. And the youngest is 8 years older than me. So they were like high schoolers and, little baby girl. My parents had 3 boys, and my mom wanted a girl after the first boy. And after 3 boys, she said, let's adopt a baby girl. So I'm adopted. But I just remember my brothers being wrestlers, and, I was a little mascot cheerleader for the high school, and I'd go to all their meets. And of course we'd wrestle around and stuff. So, I don't know, maybe just being the baby of 3 older brothers and just that mama bear instinct, is what got me to, just grab him and put him in a headlock. But yeah, I had no formal training. And then Rener Gracie reached out to me. I didn't really know who he was. And, I have always watched UFC and loved that for some reason. Maybe that kind of was part of it too. But he reaches out to me and offers me, he hears my story and just offers me free training at one of his gyms. And so I took him up on that. So I've been doing Jiu Jitsu for the past year. I've been doing their Women Empowered program, which is just women. We're learning self-defense, but it's a lot of the same techniques that, we learn. I'm really gonna get into combatives, which I'm looking forward to because I'm so excited about it. I absolutely love it. So what came out of all of that, it's kind of part of, what I want to advocate for too, not just, private safe spaces, but women and girls everywhere, and your kids, boys and girls, but women and girls, concealed carry and guns are not for everyone. but you got to know how to protect yourself. And I have learned so much learning about jiu-jitsu. And I would just encourage every woman, mom, grandma. I mean, I've seen some older ladies just recently get a brown belt somewhere.
Yeah.
I saw that on Instagram. And, you know, I'm 55 and I have a couple of bad discs that like to blow out every now and then. And I thought, there's no way I can roll around. But, you know, it's not bothered me at all. And I would just encourage women and girls to really, you know, if you guys have a women's class, self-defense, man, come out here. And it's just incredible. You think I'm too old for this, or I don't have the strength. You don't need it. You know, it has built me up mentally. I have so much more confidence now. You know, I thought I was, you know, could handle my own before, but now it's like it's given me a lot of control and confidence. It's funny, one thing that I learned, you know, because I'm a fighter. I mean, I can get scrappy, and I'm half Spanish, and you know, being the baby of 3 older boys, I kind of had to handle my own, but it kind of worked against me when I started learning how to do jiu-jitsu, because I wanted to get in there and I wanted to get the technique down, and you're not going to hold on. I'm going to get out. I'm going to, you know, and it's really taught me to slow down and breathe and think through things. So it's just really, I don't know. It's been, I love it so much. And that's one of the things I spoke about just last night. I spoke to some Turning Point USA kids, high schoolers, and I looked at the girls and I said, you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be mentally prepared, if anything, and go out and try a self-defense class. A lot of jiu-jitsu gyms offer them.
Try a jiu-jitsu self-defense class. Let's make sure to clarify and qualify this.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu-based self-defense.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff out there that is going to get people hurt.
Yeah.
There are. I actually went to something that someone said, hey, I heard your story. Can you come to my gym down the road and share your story? And we're doing, teaching some self-defense. And I'm just like, you know, some of the technique they were doing, I'm like, this is not... This is not correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would just really encourage.
What was that? Was that a Maradote? That was an Maradote gym?
I don't know what it
Rex
was.
Kwando.
We tend to mock this stuff a little bit, Michelle. What you're saying is so true and it's really important. But Jared being the black belt and the professor here, I'm going to double down on it. I mean, I've been teaching women's self-defense for a long time, and the reason I do it was because of your story. I will tell you, I trend north of 80% of clients, either on the private side or in the gym or whatever setting we're in, have been victims. 80%. And I'm easily north of 1,000 gals that I've trained now. That's a hard number to accept. And they all have a story when they come in, and you can see it. You can see it in their body language. You can see it in everything. But when they walk away and they change and they have that empowerment and they feel, I can control my environment. I feel like I can do this. It's a game changer. It changes their relationships. I mean, it adds in so many ways to life.
It does. It does.
Yeah. I remember my first starting jiu-jitsu is very similar to what you just described. Whenever I was young, I thought, man, I'll just get mad, you know, that blackout, go red, whatever, and I'll just be able to swing and slug my way out and fight hard and be angry. And then whenever I started jiu-jitsu, kind of being a hothead as a teenager, started when I was 14, I realized very quickly, wait a second, being mad, it's not doing anything for me. It's actually working against me. I have to be in control of myself if I have any chance of being able to control somebody else. And those were very important and valuable lessons. And I would say that one of the biggest things, though, is it's this ongoing training. Listen, going to one self-defense workshop or training or seminar, that's great. And it's better than nothing. But the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is I truly believe it is for everybody. Because like you described, age, it shouldn't really be a limitation. We've got a guy who's 66 years old. He just signed up. He's been coming. He's loving it. He's learning. He's doing great. He's getting in shape, and he's just started. I've met black belts that are in their 80s, didn't start till they were in their 70s. I mean, jiu-jitsu is truly for everyone because it can be tailored. It can be, it's completely something that you're in control of. You're in control of what you do and how you move and how you control others. And the beautiful part about that is you can train it regularly. And if you train smart instead of hard, it doesn't matter your physical limitations. It doesn't matter your injuries. It doesn't matter any of those things because you can still train. And because you can train, and as often as you can train, whenever you're training smart, it makes you very effective in being able to confidently defend yourself, and then control others and control your situation. So what I love is last night, 15-year-old girl, she just tapped out this, he's probably 240 pounds, I'd say, close to that. We're going in positional right after our technique class, and we're just working positional, so it wasn't a full-on roll, but we're just working positional from half guard. I look over, and this guy's tapping, and I'm like, what? You just got tapped out by a 15-year-old girl, man. How you feel? He's like, I don't want to talk about it. He's like, don't worry. Nobody knows. Nobody saw.
Not till now.
But it's the truth. I just don't. There's so few instances that it's real. Like you, it's not like you're trying to let this 15-year-old girl tap you out, but she's been training for several years. She knows what she's doing. The other guy's bigger. The other guy, by all count, he's a male. He should be able to whoop up on this girl, and she taps him out. Jiu-jitsu is a truly beautiful thing. Now, here's the thing. A trained female versus untrained male, majority of the time, always going to win. Whenever you start to mix training and both of them train, it becomes more and more obvious and apparent. Yes, there has to be a dividing line. Whenever it comes to competition, whenever it comes to wrestling or competition in jiu-jitsu or wrestling, there should be a dividing line at a certain point. Whenever they're younger and they're still kids, a lot of times you'll see mixed divisions where you've got boys and girls competing in the same divisions. And that's a lot of times just because the sports are still growing and there's still more girls getting into it, more boys getting into it. And in the meantime, you got to kind of sometimes pad divisions and the boys compete with the girls. But at about high school level, there's got to be that dividing line because there is a clear difference and an obvious advantage between male and female. But what is beautiful is that a trained female can absolutely throw down and completely demolish an untrained male adult.
Yeah.
That is the power in jiu-jitsu.
And what I love in your story, Michelle, and I know we've talked about it, and I want to make sure we, number one, we applaud you. I think this is really important. I've sat on the other side so many times of victims that have been through something, and there's one common statement of every victim I've ever had that was female. One common statement. After they were a victim, they said, I knew something was wrong. I knew something inside was wrong, and I didn't know what it was. You knew something was wrong. You paused, you processed it, you looked around, and you said, okay, this isn't right. A lot of them freeze. You didn't. And I can't say enough to that. Like, that's powerful. And even untrained, you went and you said, not today, not on my watch. I don't want people getting hurt, but at the exact same time, what you did, if you felt in control of that thing, you're the only reason this guy's done any jail time. You're the reason. Because if it had been left up to everybody else, there would have been nothing. And I've heard so many cases like this. And I said on the other side of it, and I applaud you, because this is, and by the way, this is daily. This is not some anomaly that Michelle Chandler just went through one day, and Michelle Chandler, out of 350 million people in the United States, is a rare victim. This happens all the time, everywhere, small town, big city, you name it, doesn't matter, high schools all the way to, wherever, all the time this kind of stuff happens. And so thank you, number one, for being a shining example to other women. Number two, for stepping into the training, because that's huge. This is going to help you. And number three, be willing to go out and keep sharing your story. Because there's some people, in my opinion, through all of this process, and I'm going to speak to an attorney offline after this and really dive into this. I'm going to let him watch the podcast and see where some things can potentially happen for your benefit, because there's a lot of people that drop the ball and let you down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. I find it very interesting. When I said I got the police report just a few months ago, because I wanted to see everyone's statements, what they said, saw, and the one main person that really helped me in the video never made a statement. Got removed and sent home. And there's no police report, no statement from that person. And, you know, Nordstrom let people go because of this incident.
You ever going to shop at Nordstrom again?
No,
Good.
absolutely not. So let me put a plug in and maybe for your wife. I worked at a store out at Park Meadows Mall called Evereve.
Oh,
It's outside,
yeah.
across from
Yep.
where Orvis and Perry's. They're a great store. It's a store for women. They will, you know, you'll have your own personal stylist, put outfits together for you, but they carry all of the brands that Nordstrom does, as well as their own brand. And so I would encourage women to go shop there.
And
Shop
it's a
at Evereve.
women's only store?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah.
What's it
So,
called again?
Evereve.
Excuse me.
Evereve.
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 I don't really frequent much retail therapy, but
Yeah.
I
But they
will
have all of
certainly-
Nordstrom's brands, and that's why I loved, you know, working there. So,
I'm more of
yeah.
a Shields guy, more of a Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's,
Cabela's.
Sheplers.
Jared's young. It'll come one day. Bless his
I'll
heart.
I'll go to the mall every once in a while, but I'm going to stop there. Every once in a while, I'll go to the mall. But Michelle, let's turn a little bit to 2A, okay? Second Amendment. You said concealed carry is not for everyone. Me and Micah would agree with that statement. That
Yeah.
there's trainings where, you know, if somebody is not truly prepared to carry a gun, if they're not truly ready to deal with the consequences, carrying may not be for them. The Second Amendment can extend to everyone, but it doesn't mean that everybody should be carrying a gun unless they are willing to put in the proper preparation, training, those types of things, and be ready to actually carry responsibly. So that being said, we have a segment in the show where we usually talk a little bit about gear. So are you one of those people who likes to carry?
Yes, I am not currently. I have to take my class over, I guess. My certificate lasts 10 years, if that's correct.
Yep.
And then, and I have to renew my permit.
You should go see Teddy Collins.
I know, I love him. I met him.
Yeah, he's got a
Yeah.
gun range store
I
thingy down
know.
there for you.
Yeah. But my daughter, she recently she had to renew hers and take a course over. She's like, man, the laws have changed since the last time we took our class. She's like, you got to have it locked up in your house, your door locked, like all these. And I'm just like, I used to just keep mine on my nightstand, loaded, ready to go.
Yeah,
Years ago.
I'm more of a don't ask, don't tell when it comes inside my house.
Okay, delete that.
No, we're okay. There's a Fourth Amendment for a
But-
reason. You're okay.
You know, I'm just like, she's like, a lot of things have changed. So I need to take the class. But yeah, I am. I think,
What do you usually carry?
oh, my favorite, and it is not a, you know, small womanly gun. It's a Ruger SR9C, kind of bigger. But you know, we used to be members out at Centennial, and so we have several guns, and it was just the gun that I loved how it felt. I shot well with it. I was comfortable with it. And I think that's super important, you know, that as a woman, you know, go out there, go to the range, you know, try out different things, get some training. And you got to just be really comfortable. There's no reason to be carrying if you're not comfortable with
Yeah.
it and you're going to use it.
I like the fact that you said the gun is not small, so you didn't go out and buy something that was magenta and small because you're a girl.
Yeah, no, no. And I don't like, you know, I don't even, we have several and I like the feel of it. And, yeah, I don't know.
Good. Well, it's been a great conversation. We are running low on time now. What I already called out your Instagram earlier, but is there anywhere else where people can follow your story, come alongside you, support you, keep up with what's going on with your work and the ways that you're involved? in getting this story out there, being an advocate for victims. It's MI Chandler 5 on Instagram, right?
Yeah. MICHANDLER number 5. Primarily, I just run my Instagram. It's kind of overwhelming. I have a Facebook. I don't really do much on there. Just some stuff will roll over. I keep that for my old school family that, hey, we're having a wedding, or that's how they communicate. I really just stick to Instagram primarily. I have a lot of ideas and thoughts, and gosh.
Talk about that just for a minute, since we're going long. I know, where do you go with this? Because this was an incident. This changed your entire life. So it's probably changed your course and direction in your future of where things are heading. I know a couple different victims that after it happened, repurposed their entire life because of it. Am I speaking too big on that, or is that?
No. It's crazy because my thinking has changed. I think doing a lot of the work, like you said, a lot of people have traumas from the past.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that just dismiss that. Oh, let it roll off my back. That's not who I am today. It doesn't bother me. I don't need to deal with that. It shapes who we are. I've gone through a lot and it took me 52 years to really open up and deal with all that. So that's what I was doing at the time that this incident happens at Nordstrom Rack, not realizing that I really lived my life with a lot of dysfunctional belief systems, being unwanted, unloved, unworthy, unprotected, abandoned. I was the product of rape.
Yeah.
I was a dirty secret. I'm grateful for the life I have, and that my mother gave me up for adoption and took that, hard road of 9 months to give me life when she could have done otherwise, in this world where they say, well, what about in the situation of rape? It should be okay to have an abortion. And so I'm grateful for that. But, feeling she never saw me. She covered her head with a sheet and delivered me, and they took me out and whisked me off to the nursery. So I think at 52, I was just, dealing with a lot of those things and things that happened in my childhood. I was dealing with, a broken marriage. I was falling apart. I homeschooled all 5 of my kids, never drank throughout, 15 years of life. And that kind of became my little self-medication, at this time where I was just falling apart. So all of that being said, and then this happens, I think doing a lot of the internal work on myself and dealing with the past traumas and things, I would say I have such a heart now, obviously, to share my faith, my testimony, my story, bring people to Christ. But I have a heart for people, like you said earlier, the real problem is mental health. That's spot on. Spot on. This young man that did this to me, mental health. I think it's mental health for every single one of us on this planet, because the biggest battles are the ones we fight alone in our minds. And we've got to keep our mental thoughts healthy. We got to keep our mind healthy. And I think that's the battleground in all of our issues that we're dealing with today, whether it's gender identity or, it's just people are broken and people need Jesus. And, God says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. What goes in is what comes out.
Amen.
And all action is born in thought. So what's going on up here is going to manifest in our behavior, our character, why we're doing the things that we're doing, why young men are getting into pornography, why, I feel like I'm a man today. It's a mental health problem. And I think it is spiritually rooted, because we were created in the identity of our Creator. And until we find that and are anchored in that, we are going to be filling all those other voids with all these other things and lies of the enemy. And so I don't know, it's just really, I think there's just so much that God has on my heart, and I didn't go through what I've gone through to be silent. And I'm going to do what I can. I will. When I'm ready to roar, I just feel like I've been a lion pacing back and forth, and the cage has been unlocked, and I'm just waiting for go time. I'm waiting for, how Nordstrom's going to respond, and I'm going to kick and yell and scream and do what I can to advocate for, female spaces only, protecting women and girls, advocating for mental health, getting out there and sharing, my heart. My home is in Southeast Denver. My heart is in Lakewood, in the trenches, with people who just need to know there's a better way. You don't have to live life like this. And, I think that's why we're here. I think that's why, we've lost such an eternal perspective. There's so many distractions in this world, and we wake up and we do the grind and we go to work and we got to do this. And I work so hard, so I got to have my time and me time and do this and golf and whatever it is. And there's no eternal value. Not to say that those things aren't, are bad, but we're here for a reason. And it's to give God glory, and it's to bring people to Christ. And I think it's mental health and broken homes. That's our biggest problem, So.
The first broken home was in the Bible. Cain and Abel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from the dawn of man to Michelle Chandler sitting here on the 24th of February.
Same thing.
Same thing, right? Nothing's changed. It's. I'm going to tell you a 30-second story. We built a church in the last year, and we closed on it. Our pastor, who I love, said, I don't care. We had a whole building committee. We had a design, all this stuff. He said, I want one thing and one thing only as the pastor in the church. I want a sign outside of the men's bathroom and the women's bathroom. And the sign has to say biological males and biological females. And that was his only request. He didn't care about the colors. He didn't care about anything. He goes, I want that statement so that people understand when they walk in here what we stand for. And that to me is, I don't know if I could put enough exclamation point on it, because he preaches the truth. He preaches the Bible. Everything you just said, I echo. And I'm so grateful that I have a pastor that understands that when he's talking to a man, it's a man, and when he's talking to a woman, it's a woman. And we're not playing those games.
It's sad that we have to fall to that level, but some things that should just be common sense are not common sense anymore, unfortunately, for most people. And whenever we talk about mental health, I know that is really just the comfortable term that we've put on spiritual warfare, that we've put on people that are wrestling with demons that are very real and very much showing themselves and manifesting themselves. So it's a spiritual fight, and it's been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, Michelle. We end every episode with prayer, so I would like to give you the opportunity to close us out with prayer. Pray for those listening. Pray for Colorado. Pray for the wickedness that's plaguing our world, and just pray that people will turn to Christ. You're more than welcome to say a prayer. If you'd be more comfortable with me and Micah, that's fine too, whichever you'd like.
Sure. Thank you. Heavenly Father, we just come before you right now, Lord. You are so good and you are mighty, and we just thank you for just your mercies that are new every morning in our lives, Lord, that we live in this broken world, yet you just love us and you want a relationship with each and every one of us. I thank you for these men here willing to stand for truth, Lord, and to invite me onto their podcast and just be a word of truth, Lord. I just pray blessings over their family, Lord. I just pray, Lord, in this world we are just living in such a broken place that it's a spiritual battle that's going on before us. Everything is spiritual. We're not fighting each other, but it's an evil presence. It is a spirit of evil. And I just pray, Lord God, if you were to remove the veil from our eyes and we could see into the realm of what's going on right now, we would be utterly terrified. But we have to keep that in mind, because that is where we're at, and we do not fight with weapons of this world, but we fight with divine weapons. That, Lord, we would just continue to be warriors in prayer and put you first, because you did not save us to be silent, Lord, and there's so many out there that just need you, just need Jesus and Jiu Jitsu.
Amen.
God, I just thank you. There's purpose in the pain, and I am so grateful for what I've been through and anything that I can do to pour my life out to share with others. God, just continue to guide us all in that we would just be bold and courageous with our faith, because this world, our country, is falling apart at the foundation that it was built on. And we need to take it back, and we need to be bold. And you say that in this world you will have trouble and you will be persecuted. So we need not fear when we encounter that, and we need to continue to be warriors, just standing firm on your word and in your truth, arm in arm with one another, Lord. And I just thank you for this time and this opportunity to share what you've done in my life, Lord. And just thank you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Last thing is, if you can just sign our wall for us before we head out, that'd be wonderful.
Right on.
Thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure.
I carry a gun 'cause this world's gone cold. A knife for the path when the stories unfold. But the one that leads me come fire or trial is the word in my hand with a leather-bound smile. It's the life that I live, not just something I say. That's a daily carry.